Hello friends, my name is Amelia, welcome back to my channel, and today we have a exciting video, or at least I find this type of video fun to make and also like to watch, which is of course going to be tier ranking my 2024 reads. So I'm currently up to 68 books, which is very exciting because I'm thinking I'm going to be able to get up to 70, which like isn't specifically a goal that I had set, but I do think it would be fun to make it there and fill 2 whole pages in my books read section of my reading journal. But that means we have 68 books to talk about here today. There's of course still about a weekish remaining of the year, but I think we're close enough that we can talk about it, and anything that I miss I can talk about next year if I remember. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get straight into it. Alright, so this year I decided to go with just like the standard regular tier labels, didn't do anything crazy, and I've got all of my books here in order that I read them. So yeah, first we have Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Quantrill. This is the first book in the Echoes saga, and this is not a good book, but I think I'm gonna put this one in C. Yeah, just because I know there's at least 1 or 2 in this series that were worse than this, so I feel like this will probably be like bottom of C kind of deal. Alright, then we have Gathering Storm. Honestly, the last couple of Wheel Times books, wow, okay, speaking is hard today, did kind of blend together in my brain a little bit, so I'm maybe having a little bit of trouble keeping them apart. But I want to save S for like things that really like blew me away, so I'm gonna put this in A for now. And then Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I didn't really like this. I don't know. I felt that it wasn't what I wanted it to be. It like became like a romance thing, and I just like didn't care. So I'm gonna put it at the top of C, which is probably going to be a very controversial opinion, but you know, that's my opinion. Alright, Bookshops and Bone Dust. I know a lot of people didn't think this one was nearly as good as Legends and Lattes. I liked it at least equal to Legends and Lattes. But I think it can go in A. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that for now, but it could also be like a top of B type situation. I really like those books, but they're not like I feel like it's not on the level of like Gathering Storm, although it's good for other reasons, so it's kind of hard to compare these things. Then we have Braiding Sweetgrass. This is a nonfiction by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Yes, I think. And I maybe should have done the nonfiction separately, but I've already put them on here, so I'm committed to including them now. But I think I'll make a separate video talking about my favorite nonfiction, although you'll kind of get a sneak preview in this. But this is also, I think, an A tier book. I'll put it at the bottom for now, but I don't know. It's like impossible to compare how much I enjoyed one of these like fiction books to nonfiction, because it's just like a totally different vibe. Alright, then we have Natural History of Dragons. This is the first book in the Lady Trent series, which is a series following like a lady naturalist in a male-dominated world that's very much inspired by like Victorian England, and I really enjoyed these. Actually, I probably would say the first book is probably one of my favorites in the series, but I think I might put it below Bookshops and Bone Dust. Yeah, that seems right. I mean, the first one, it has its problems, but a lot of the problems are just like that the main character is like insufferable, but that is also kind of the point and like the beginning of her arc for the series, so I think it makes sense. Then we have Towers of Midnight. Again, Wheel of Time. I think this is 13. Yeah, that sounds right. I'm gonna put it above Gathering Storm if it will let me. Okay. It was just a really enjoyable book. It's kind of interesting how it takes like 3 books. Okay, like the 2 before the final one are very much like wrapping things up and really gearing up for the final battle, but somehow, even though it's all like preparation for the end, it picked up the pace quite a bit, and I really enjoyed them. I believe those ones are both also co-authored by Brandon Sanderson. Alright. Malice by John Gwynne. This is the first book. Yeah, the first book in his Faithful and the Fallen series, and I think the first book is probably, okay, I've only read 2 of them so far. First book is definitely a lot better than the second one. I think I'd put it at the bottom of A. it's just like, it's, I don't know if it even deserves to be an A or if it should be in B. The thing is, I want it to be like a decent amount higher up than the second book, but I don't know if the second book deserves to be in C. I'm gonna put it in B for now. I just feel like it's not that special, honestly. Alright, then we have The Tainted Cup. This one also, I think, is a B. It was interesting, but it wasn't like that special. I think the world building was kind of cool, but I felt like the characterization was very like reliant on pre-existing tropes, and so it wasn't that interesting. Then we have, this one is, I think, the title's cut off, but I'm pretty sure this one is The Tropic of Serpents. That is what I was going to say. I think this one is probably my least favorite of these. I don't know, it like involves this war that it gets like escalated to, and the whole point of the war seems to be so that our like main character can have like a bit of a redemption moment and like be a hero. So that one's probably bottom of B. And then I immediately read Voyage of the Basilisk, which I enjoyed much more than the Tropic of Serpents. We've got a boat. I do love some good boating. And we got some more character development. Our main character stops being quite disannoying. I'm going to put it under the first one, I think. Alright, then we have Going Postal by Terry Pratchett. And I did enjoy this, but I'm just like not entirely sure if that sort of type of humor-ish fantasy is like my favorite. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to put it top of B. Like, oops, not there. I just like have become a lot, more, oh my god, stringent, I guess, with my ratings, and yeah, I just feel like if I am a little more harsh, it becomes a more accurate representation of where books are in relation to each other. So yeah, that's that. Then we have Eat the Buddha. This is another nonfiction book about Tibet and like the Chinese invasion of it and the subjugation of their people and all that kind of stuff. And it was very interesting. It's a subject I didn't really know much about before, so I enjoyed learning more about that part of the world. And it was told in a very interesting way, like with different stories of certain Tibetan people through the years. And I think I would put it, here's the thing, I think it's more informative than Braiding Sweetgrass and tells me more of things I didn't know. However, I just found that in Braiding Sweetgrass, some of the descriptions were just so evocative of specifically like my memories of childhood. Like, I think I'm going to put it underneath Sweetgrass for now, but I do think that it is more like I learned more from it. Okay, then we have Empire of Dirt. This is book 2 of the Echo Saga, and honestly it's really a shame that these covers are so beautiful because the story is not. Yeah, I think it just goes one below Rise of the Ranger in there. I think that's good. We have Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. This was the final of the Secret Projects, and apparently one of my friends who's read more of the Cosmere, like I think most of it, was saying that that I would probably appreciate it more if I had read more of the Cosmere, but as it was, I still really enjoyed it. I just I don't know, I had a few issues with the depth of like the characterizations, so I think I'll put it here. Yeah. Alright, then we have Way of Kings, which is book 1 of the Stormlight Archive, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I'm going to put it in S tier. I think it deserves to be there. I think it is the best Stormlight book, so make of that what you will. And we have Eve. This is another nonfiction book. It's about the evolution of humankind, but framed through a female's perspective, where we look at different stages in the mammal evolution where they developed a specific trait that is unique to initially female mammals, but then female humans. And this is probably my favorite nonfiction of the year. I'm gonna put it at the top. All right, then we have another banger, 3 bangers in a row. We have Memory of Light, final book of the Wheel of Time. This book, after I finished reading this, I went to work and I was in a haze. Honestly, it was just such a book that was so full of emotion and just paid off beautifully on all of the work that we had done to get here, and I just honestly loved it. And then I followed that up with New Spring because I was having a Wheel of Time hangover. This is the prequel, and honestly I do think that it is best read at the end, you could read it at the beginning, but I think it's just like a perfect like little send off to Wheel of Time after you finish the whole series. So yeah, where should I put this? See, I'm already becoming like a little bit. I'm not sure if it feels like it deserves to be this high up in the A tier, but maybe it's just that these don't deserve to be in the A tier. Like maybe I'll bump this one down to the top of B. I don't know. It's hard. Anyway, the next one we have here is In the Labyrinth of Drakes. This is the 4th book in Lady Trent. And this one, we get a lot of improvements on our main character. She's much less annoying, which I enjoy. And I think I might put it... I'm trying to decide if it should go above or below Voyage of the Basilisk. I think I'm going to put it above. Okay, and then next up we have Within the Sanctuary of Wings. This is the final book in the Lady Trent series. And honestly, I wasn't super happy with how they finished it. Oopsie, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. So I think I'd probably put it near the bottom of B. I just like wasn't super thrilled with where she ended up going with it. Then we have Before They Are Hanged, which is book 2 in First Law trilogy. This is such a strange trilogy because I don't know, I feel like I just like it doesn't stick in my mind. Like I don't know, I just forget the characters a lot, which maybe I don't know, says something about how much I enjoyed it. I think I'd put it maybe like top of B. That feels good. Alright, and we have Words of Radiance. This is book 2 of the Stormlight Archive. Honestly, the 3 middle books, maybe they kind of blur together a little bit, but I think where to put you there feels right. 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City. This was kind of, I don't know, one that I picked up just because I had seen it and it looked interesting and I hadn't really heard anything about it. And it was kind of fun, but it wasn't like anything that special, so I'd probably put it in B there. I think that feels right. Relic of the Gods. I'm pretty sure this is the one that features like genocide, so without much else to say, I'm gonna put it there. Alright, then we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn. I know a lot of people liked this. I don't know, I don't know. I would probably put it in B. I think this feels right. It just wasn't, I don't know. It had promise, but I didn't think it was that special. We have Dragonflight by Emma Craffrey. This very much suffers from being like of its time, in that it has a lot of kind of really sexist overtones that I really struggled to enjoy. The world building is interesting, but like, did I enjoy this? Yes, it's probably not C tier level. I mean, look at the stuff that's down there. I'd probably put it like the bottom of B, I think. Apparently this was a very mid-year. I mean, some really good ones, but then some just like mid stuff. And then I read Endure. This is another nonfiction book. It's about running and just like endurance sports in general. And I did find it very interesting and it was like informative, but I was hoping that it would have more takeaways that I could use for my own running, and I just didn't really feel like it did. So, do I remember that much of it? No. I'll probably put it like here, I guess. That seems right. Then I read Valor by John Gwynne. This is book 2 in his Faithful to Fallen, that's what it's called, right? Series. And this one was a bit of a struggle to get through. I didn't really find myself enjoying it that much. It's not sexist, so I guess I can put it above Dragonflight. But I just feel like, I don't know, I've heard that this series is like so good and like, oh, all this like in-depth fantasy stuff, and it feels very surface level in a lot of places for me, so. Then I have The Lost Bookshop, which was just like a random book that my mother-in-law got me. It was actually kind of a sleeper hit. I really enjoyed it. It's like a magical realism type thing that talks a lot about women and like how they're treated in history and that kind of thing, but without being like a book about history. It's just like set in partially in history, partially in like a modern time. I think I'd put it probably at like, yeah, that feels kind of right. Yeah, I'll go with that. Then I have a picture of Dorian Gray, and I'm sorry, but I couldn't get into it. This is probably like a top of C tier type thing. I think like the concept is interesting, but it's just sexist and classist, and I know that's the point, but that doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. Then I've read Mirrored Heavens, which was also kind of a disappointment, unfortunately. I don't know. I feel like this series, like the first book I really enjoyed it, and the second one was like, and this just kind of continued the downward trajectory. So I'd probably put it, I think it's still a B tier book, maybe like here? Yeah. Then I read Hyperion, which like, that was a roller coaster because I really liked the structure of it and how the story was told, but there was just some scenes that like I will never be able to get out of my head, and it was weirdly like sexual and just weird. The writing itself was good, but like what the fuck was happening? I don't know. I'm gonna put it at the top of C. It's like I actually enjoyed it more than Dorian Gray. If I could have just cut those random fucking scenes out, and like, I don't know, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. Then I read Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin, and actually I really enjoyed this one. It's a short book about a guy whose like dreams can actually like change what happens in the real world, and she uses it to make a lot of commentary about power and how it corrupts, and like what, kind of talking about the concept of like the greater good type of thing. So I would put this, I'm gonna put it pretty high up, put it above Sunlit Man, I think. I just think it's impressive how like succinctly she could make all this commentary, really. Then I read Leviathan Wakes, which I actually really enjoyed a lot more than I thought I was going to. It was just a fun, good time, and easy writing, lots of action, quick to get through. I'd probably put it, so hard. I think I would put it, I'm going to put it there in A, but I feel like I need to reread Sunlit Man, maybe after I've read some more of the Cosmere stuff, but yes. Then we have Dragon's Legacy, which was a 5-star read for me. It's something a series I never heard of before, but it just had really good writing, had some interesting characters, interesting world building, not like I've really seen before. I think I'm going to put it at the bottom of S. I'm not sure if it really deserves to be there, but I'm going to put it there for now. Then we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which was kind of a cute little book, but I felt like it didn't really say anything, not like what it was trying to say anyway. So I'm going to put it, probably in C. It was just like, I'm kind of there, honestly. Right, Ursula K. Le Guin's Wizard of Earthsea. This was an interesting, like a fun little book. I wouldn't say it's on like the same level of Lathe of Heaven for me, but where should I put this? It's interesting because it's very much like kind of like an older style of fantasy where you're much less like in the character. It's more sort of top-down feeling than like the modern style, which is different, but it does make it harder to get like invested in the characters. I think I might put it under Going Postal. Alright, then we have Assassin's Apprentice. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I adore Robin Hobb. Is this her strongest book? No. But I have read them all, and at this point I'm like so invested, and I love the overall series so much that like it's hard for me to rate them. And probably these are rereads, so I didn't initially really mean to rate them, but it's in here anyway, so you know. Alright, I'll put it down to top of A. Okay? Just, is it better than Towers of Midnight? Maybe not. But I just love Fitz, you know? Then we have Sword of Kaigen, which is a self-published book, although I think it has been picked up now. Actually, my copy was published by Indigo, which is not something I've ever seen before, so that was interesting. And this book somehow made me cry in the middle of it, and I typically don't really cry from reading books, but she just, I don't know, the emotional and character work that she did in this book was amazing. I'm gonna put it above Way of Kings. Maybe it should be below, but I don't know. It's so hard to guess. It's so hard to know where to put these things. Okay, next up we have Book Lovers. I'm not actually sure if this is exactly when I read this, but I sort of, forgot to write it down. So, you know, I'm just putting it in here. This book, it was okay. I don't really think romance is for me. So, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with bottom of B. I didn't really mean to drop it there, but I do think that it kind of fits. It works. Then I read Ducks. This was a graphic novel about the author's time working in the oil sands to pay back her student loans. This like kind of autobiographical, okay, wow. And I really enjoyed it. Where would I put it? Yeah, I feel like bottom of A kind of works for me there, actually. Then I have The Myth of Normal. This is another nonfiction book. It's about like psychology, and honestly I kind of forgot a lot of what was going on here, which is kind of not like a good sign maybe, but I remember it being interesting at the time, and when I was writing a review the other day, because I had forgotten about writing it for so long, I was kind of remembering things. I think I'll put it above Endure, but yeah. Then I read Life in the City of Dirty Water. This is another nonfiction. It's about a Native American man's experience growing up in Winnipeg, and it was kind of hard to listen to at times, but I think it's very like, you need to confront that kind of thing when it is part of your society. You can't just look away from parts of society that you don't want to hear about. So I think I'll put it above Braiding Sweetgrass. Then we have, what is this, Oathbringer? The title's cut off. I think it's Oathbringer. Oathbringer, yes. Where would I put this one? I'm trying to remember what even happens in Oathbringer. That's the problem. I don't remember which is which. I think it's probably an A-tier book, but where in A-tier? I'm gonna put it under Sunlit Man. Then I read Fall of the Netherdark. Saw sucks too. But slightly less than Relic of the Gods. Moon of the Crusted Snow is like kind of a dystopian future kind of thing, where it is set in an like kind of remote North Native American community as they are trying to deal with, like they suddenly lose connection with the outside world, and things start to go a little bit south as winter comes in and they're not getting more food deliveries. I would probably put this, that seems right. It was really interesting, but I wouldn't say it's like a top tier book by any means. Then I read Carmilla, which was a graphic novel about like a vampire, but she's gay, which was kind of cool. This was good, but it wasn't like didn't super stick with me, I would say. So I would say that feels about right. Vicious by B. Schwab. This was enjoyable, but again, I don't know, I didn't quite connect with it. So I think probably somewhere around there would be good. Then I read The Invocations, which I really enjoyed reading at the time, but it is kind of one of those books where it's like a fun read, and then I kind of just like forgot about it. So I think I'll probably put it maybe, I think Valor's got to go above Tropic of Serpents. That's what's throwing me off here. Probably here is good. Garlic and the Vampire. This was one that Katie's reading really hyped up, and honestly, it was cute, but the story was just kind of a little bit flat for me, not that interesting. So while the art would really pull it up, the actual story I didn't think was that compelling, and I didn't really care that much about any of the characters because it's like so short. But yeah, I'd probably put it, yeah, there seems good. Then I read House of Hollow, which is by the same author as The Invocations, and I think this one is definitely more impactful than that one. So I'd probably put it, yeah, maybe I'd put it a little bit higher up, like theirs. Then I read A Gentleman from Japan, which is another nonfiction book about the first Japanese person to come to the British Isles. And it was interesting, but also just like not that impactful, which is kind of like what like most of my like B tier is like, these were interesting, I enjoyed all of these, but like, did they make an impact on me? Do I ever think about them? I don't ever think about this one. Where should I put it though? If I'm like solely comparing it to these other two nonfiction books, I'd probably put it under Endure. So I'm just gonna put them together, but I'd probably, Yeah, you know what? I'll do that. That seems right. All right. Next is Rhythm of War. This is probably my least favorite Stormlight Archive book. In just like, I kind of struggled to get through it at times. I felt that it was like too long, too stretched out. I was a bit bored. It could have been edited down quite a bit. I'm gonna put it. Feels wrong to put it. Oopsie. In B tier. Can you please just? You know what? I'll put it in the bottom of A. Then we have Starling House. Kind of similar vibes to like the Invocations and House of Hollow, in like that is kind of more like that style of book. And I did really like this. I just like did feel quite surface level at a lot of times. Like it didn't quite go as deep as it could have gone. So I'll put it there, I think. Then I read If We Were Villains by Emma Rio, and this was kind of a surprise hit for me. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna love this, because I know it's a lot about Shakespeare, and I don't really care about Shakespeare, but it was just like so impactfully written that I really did enjoy it. It was very, it's like ridiculous in like some ways, because you are following these like very sort of pretentious characters who act in ways that like real people probably wouldn't act, but it's like for the drama, you know, like it's kind of like Shakespeare play in itself, where like things that happen or maybe like wouldn't happen in real life, but it's like high kind of drama, I guess. I'd honestly probably put it in A tier. So that's exciting. It's the first like nonfiction. It's the first thing up here besides nonfiction and fantasy. Wow. Okay, that was hard to say. Next I read, oh my god, where'd it go? Rise and Reign of the Mammals, another nonfiction. It was good, but it spent way too long talking about teeth. And it kind of lost me there. So I'm gonna put it, I think it was, might put it just below Myth of Normal. Then I read Fury of the Gods, which is the final book in the Bloodsworn saga. And honestly, this final book was a little bit of a disappointment. It didn't quite hit the emotional beats that I wanted it to hit, and I felt like I wasn't invested as the characters as I was in like the first book. So unfortunately, I think it's a B tier book. Yeah, probably somewhere like there, which is kind of sad, but you know, is what it is. And then I read Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari, and he did have some interesting things to say, but he really threw me off in the beginning with the AI fear-mongering. Like, it seems like he thinks that AI is like actually intelligent already, which it isn't really, and of course it probably will become so in the future, and so it doesn't hurt to start thinking about those things now. But to me, it just like, I don't know, it didn't quite hit though as he was hoping it would, I think. So I probably put it below Endure. Yeah, probably below Gentleman from Japan as well. Then I read Nuclear War Scenario, which was a very interesting but very like kind of difficult book to get through, because it was very like, it didn't shy away from the truth, and sometimes like when the truth of what would happen in a nuclear war is like pretty depressing, and also like she would be kind of like graphic sometimes, talking about what happens to the human body when it is exposed to nuclear bombs, which is not ideal. Let me just tell you that. But it was very informative. It was very like impactful. I would probably put it, I'm gonna put this pretty high up actually, I think. Then I read Light Eaters, which is about like plants and how they kind of have like more intelligence than we give them credit for. And it was an interesting book, but I just had a hard time paying attention to it, and I'm not entirely sure why. So I think I'm going to put it under Rise and Reign of the Mammals. Then I read Royal Assassin, which was also hard to get through, but mostly just because I know what happens to Fitz at the end, and I didn't want that to happen to him, so I was like putting off reading it because I didn't want my poor boy Fitz to suffer. Should I put it up there? I think it's definitely better than Assassin's Apprentice. I'll keep it there, I think. I don't know. I have a hard time reading Rotten Hog just because, I don't know, I love it so much. Right, and then we have Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong, which is the author of The Sword of Kaigen. And this book was good, but I don't think it's anywhere close to the level of Sword of Kaigen for me. It just, I don't know, it didn't quite have the same emotional impact. I wasn't as invested in the characters. So I'd probably put it, yeah, I think A tier, like kind of in the middle of it, works for me. Then I read When the Tiger Came Down from the Mountain, and this is like a little novella that is very much kind of like fairy tale-esque feeling, but the writing in it was really good. I really enjoyed myself. This is an A tier book. Where in A tier? I might put it just under Lathe of Heaven. It has really beautiful writing, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. Then I read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. One of my friends, my friend who I was talking about earlier who reads Cosmere, recommended that I read this one before Wind and Truth. And it's good, but it's not like insane or anything. I'd probably put it like top of A, or top of B, sorry, not top of A. Then I read Normal Women. This is a nonfiction book about the history of women, specifically in the British Isles. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it at the time, and now the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, there were problems with it. And I did read someone talking about how one of the things that she says happened, like, they couldn't find any actual proof for having happened, where like the AI summary of like Googling that question will say it does, but then when they read articles it says it doesn't. So now I'm a little bit like, is it all entirely true? I don't know. And it was a little bit repetitive. It was quite long, so it probably could have been edited down. That being said, I did think it was very interesting, and I really enjoy books that are women centered. So I'd probably put it pretty high. I think, yeah. Then I read The Heart of What Was Lost by Tad Williams. I honestly am not really sure that this book needed to exist, or what really the point of it was. I, like, sort of enjoyed it sometimes, but also I just kind of, I don't, it's like he wrote this for the actual series, so then it's like, I can't really just throw in another 200 pages at the end of the book, so we cut it and just like published it as its own book. So, yeah. Probably somewhere like there. Alright, then I read Wind and Truth. Now, I have videos coming about Wind and Truth. I just finished reading it last night, and so I made a reading vlog that will come soon, and then I also want to do like an in-depth review. I'm not sure when that will come. I'm working on it at some point. I like this more than Rhythm of War. Honestly, I think I'm going to put Rhythm of War atop of B. But, yeah. It's, I don't want to say any spoilers, so I'm going to put it here, I think. Okay, and then I have Dragon Reborn down here, but I actually didn't finish rereading that, so I'm just going to leave it down there. And so this is my final tier list for my year of reading. It was a very solid-ish year. Like, we got a lot of A's, we got mostly B's, but you know, I don't think B is not a bad tier. I still enjoyed the B tier books. They're just not amazing. I might do a little bit of readjusting and down here. I think Hyperion can go down a few steps, honestly. I feel like that's going to be a controversial one, but I might also drop, like, yeah, I'm going to leave that the way it is. We've got one D tier. There are a few others who, like, I feel like could hang out down there. But I feel like if it's going to be D, I have to be like, damn, I actually, like, hated this. Like, I really, really disliked it. So I'm going to keep the others where they are. And, yeah, that is my 2024 tier list. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know if you would disagree with my ratings nicely in the comments. But thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you next time.